One.
Good morning everyone and welcome to our second Science Farm live lesson. I'm Jenny and I'm so excited to welcome you all here today to Fantastic Minibeasts and where to find them. We are so lucky because today we are in such an exciting place. We are here on Sally Ann's farm here in Ashbury. Thank you so much Sally Ann for having us here. And Sally Ann is a farmer, but she's not just a farmer. She also has a really exciting other job as well. And if you have a look all around me at her classroom here on the farm, you might be able to get some clues about what kind of expert Sally Ann is. So Sally Ann, can you tell us what other job do you have as well as being a farmer?
Well, Jenny, I'm an entomologist, so I'm a bug scientist, and that's what I do. I study mini beasts, and we have lots of them.
Yes, absolutely, and that's what this lesson is going to be all about. It's all about fantastic mini beasts. I can't wait to get started. So I believe that my friend Josh is already out on your farm, isn't he? And you're going to give him a tour of the farm and show him all the mini beasts that you can find there. So we're going to catch up later on with Sally Ann, but we'll see you out on the field camera in just a little while. So thank you so much for all the shout outs that you've been sending in. There's lots and lots of them. So hopefully you're going to soon see them scrolling along the bottom of the screen. So if you've sent in a shout out, then do keep half an eye on the bottom of that screen so that you can see your school's name appearing. And again, we've had loads of fantastic questions. So thank you very much for them. But because we're live, and this is a live lesson, it's not too late to send in more questions. So if you can see something, or when we're out in the fields, you see something that you want to have more information about, or if you have any questions about anything that we cover today, then please do keep sending in your questions using the interaction information that's on the screen now. So, as I said, today's all about fantastic mini beasts, and we're also going to be learning about their habitats. Now, a habitat is a place where living things such as animals and plants live. And living things, they live in habitats that best suit their needs. So for example, a habitat that has the right food that a particular animal or plant needs, and the right conditions so that they can survive. That's where we'll find them, that's their habitat. And so two examples of habitats would be, for example, an ocean and also a woodland. They're two very different examples of habitats. And one creature that we might find in an ocean is a shark, because it's got the food that they need, it's got the conditions like the water that it needs to survive. But we would be really surprised if we saw a shark in the middle of a woodland, wouldn't we? But at the same time, a squirrel lives in a woodland habitat, and that's because a woodland habitat has all the things that a squirrel needs to survive, like the nuts for it to eat and the trees for it to live in. And so if we took a squirrel and we asked it to go and live in the ocean, it would not be very happy about that, would it? And so that's what a habitat is. It's an environment that suits a particular type of animal or plant or a living thing. Now, we're also going to be learning about microhabitats. Microhabitats are really small areas of a habitat that are even better suited to particular types of living things. So microhabitats can be really small. They can be even as small as a puddle, or even a mouldy apple could be the absolutely perfect environment for a particular type of living thing to survive. So that's how tiny microhabitats can be. And we are here today, we are going to be learning about 4 different microhabitats that can all be found here, all on Sally Ann's farm. I cannot wait to get started. So I'm going to send you now to, I haven't told you one more thing. There's an activity slate that you can fill in as well. So there's an activity sheet that you can be doing as we go through the lesson. Write down everything that we learn about mini beasts, everything that Sally Ann is going to be teaching us. So I'm now going to send you off to our field camera to catch up with Josh and Sally Ann and learn about that first microhabitat.
Thanks, Jenny. So we are at our first habitat, which is grassland. Sally Ann, why is grassland so important on your farm, and what do you do on the grassland?
Well, the grassland's a really important part of the farm because it's where we graze all the sheep and the cattle, and also it's another habitat. You know, it's got all this wonderful grass and all the flowers and everything with it as well. So it's a really important part of our farm's makeup, if you like.
Fantastic. And within that grassland as well, there's lots of different microhabitats, and I'm really excited that we're at the first microhabitat we're going to talk about today. What is it, Sally?
It's poo.
Whoa!
It's poo. So this is some cow poo. And it's very, very exciting because in the cow poo, there's lots and lots of other mini beasts that live in there. And the most important one of all is the dung beetle.
The dung beetle. So that's our first mini beast that we're going to learn about this morning, everybody.
So I'm going to put some gloves on because I'm going to be delving in the poo. So here we go.
Rather you than me, sticking your hands in the poo.
And there's lots of different type of poo as well, because the sheep have a different poo to the cows, pigs have a different poo. All the animals produce different poo, and different dung beetles like different poos.
Fantastic.
And this is a great poo. Okay, so this is a good poo.
A 10 out of 10 poo.
A 10 out of 10, because it's a nice tall poo and it's quite compact. Dung beetles like it like that. They don't like a wet splatter because they might drown in it and they can't get away from birds and things. So I'm going to pull it up this way and just curl it over.
You can see a few mini beasts that we're
We
going to
can
be
see
looking
some
for
things
later
here.
as well, but we won't delve into them just now.
And I'm going to just gently pick one off because I've got a dung beetle, which I'm going to put in here. It's quite small.
Oh,
you get
tiny.
Quite big dung beetles at different times of the year, but this is actually a dung beetle that's out now. There it is.
You'll be glad in the classroom that you can't smell this because it's starting to smell a bit pooey here as well now. You can definitely tell what we're looking at. Oh, that's fab.
But the dung beetle's really important because the dung beetles are busy getting rid of all the poo.
Yeah.
And that means the cows and the sheep have got lots of grass to eat.
Excellent.
And then they are mini beasts that get eaten by other things. They take the poo down into the soil.
Yeah.
That's really good for the plants. And then the earthworms come in.
Fantastic.
And around us here, we've got all these piles of soil.
Yes.
And that's from moles that have come to the field to find the earthworms.
Yeah.
And then the beetles fly around at night when the bats are here and they're busy eating them as well.
So everything's linked into each other, and that's so important for you as a farmer, of course.
Really, really important.
How does a dung beetle find such a magnificent poo as this one?
So dung beetles don't have noses like us. They have antennae. So the antennae stick out the side of their heads.
I like this.
Like that.
I'm going to try this.
And then leaf antennae. So they actually have little bits in their antennae. They can go like that, and then they've got this big area here, and that's how they can smell the dung.
Should we have a little bit of a closer look and maybe talk about what a dung beetle does, what it looks like and what it does?
Let's have a look. So what we've got in here are some of the dung beetles we've just found. We've got a red one here, which is a different dung beetle to this little one here that's almost gold colour on it. And what they actually do, these are the mummies and daddies, these are the adult beetles, and they're actually mashing the dung up and sucking the juices out. That's how they feed on it. And then they will lay eggs in it, and they will have a baby dung beetle, a larvae.
Wow.
And that's white, and it curls up like a C shape. And what they do is they actually eat the solid bits of the dung. So they're eating different parts of the dung as well. And what they're doing is they're taking the dung and they're pooing out soil, basically. They're making up part of the soil. They're putting that dung back into the ground, and then the plants can take it up, and also it gets rid of it. And it's really important then because the earthworms like to come in.
Fantastic. Okay, we're going to link back to Jenny in the studio now. I wonder what action you're going to think of for these dung beetles. Remember about those antennae and all that digging?
Oh my goodness! I didn't know that a cow poo could be a microhabitat. How amazing is that? And aren't those dung beetles so clever? Because they can find a really nice juicy cow poo without even using a nose. They can find it just with their antenna. So let's everyone join in with me. Let's all be dung beetles. Let's see if we can find some juicy cow poos using our antennas. Let's go wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Let's have a look. Any cow poos anywhere? Can anyone find any? Let's just have a quick recap of what we learned in that video. That's it. So the dung beetle, they actually live in the poo, and that's their habitat. And they use, as we've said, they use their wiggly antenna to sense out all of those lovely cow poos. And then they bury that poo into the soil to put lots of nutrients back into the soil. So I wonder now if Sally Ann has had time to take Josh to the next microhabitat. Let's go back to the field camera and see what they're up to.
Well, Jenny, when I said we were going to look at a different microhabitat, we haven't actually had to go very far at all. In fact, we haven't even moved since we last saw you in the studio. Sally Ann, there's a completely different habitat here. What microhabitat are we going to look at now?
Well, there is indeed, because we've got the dung pat here, but we've also got the grassland. All the soil and all the earth is here. And one of the most important mini beasts in the soil is the earthworm.
Yes.
Now, the earthworm likes to eat all the dead leaves and things like that, breaking down all the dead plant matter, but it also likes a lot of the dung. So as the dung beetles dig down and take the dung down, the earthworms will come to the dung.
Fantastic.
So if I just move the dung a bit.
Actually, yeah, the dung beetles were looking, weren't they, for that dung, but actually
were.
so have the earthworms been looking. I can already see, this is a fantastic.
Look at this.
You can see how much they like it because they're right underneath.
This will be full of earthworms. So you can see the earthworms in here. I'm just going to very gently, I don't want to tear them and pull them apart. I'm going to just gently move the soil so we can see them.
And why are the worms so important, Sally-Ann, for your farm?
So by eating the dung and the dead plant material and the leaves and things like that, and producing the soil as their poo, that's really, really important because we wouldn't be able to farm any of our crops, not just our grass, but all our other crops, if it wasn't for our soils. The earthworms also make lots of tunnels through the soil.
Oh, wow.
And as they do that, you can see they're perfectly shaped for tunnelling. And as they make a tunnel through the soil, they let the air in the soil. The soil actually needs air in it. And also it lets the water, when it rains, drain through the soil as well. So it keeps our soils healthy.
Fantastic. So you can see that they're doing a completely different job to the dung beetles that we've looked at. They make tunnels, they're great for putting air in the soil, they're great for putting water in the soil, all making sure that this lovely green grass here is going to be here for the sheep and cows on Sally-Ann's farm to have something to eat over the winter.
And also our moles.
Yes, of course, because actually what's so important is that it's not just the animals that are farmed here, but all the animals around them as well that link in to making sure that this farm is doing the best it can for nature. We're now going to go and look for a different habitat, but I'm going to link you back to Jennie in the studio. I wonder if you can think of a really good action for some of these earthworms. Maybe a bit of a wiggle. You guys decide while we go off for a little walk and find some more mini beasts.
Thanks, Josh. So the worms also like to eat the cow poo. This is really turning out to be a pooey lesson, isn't it? So the dung beetles carry all that poo down into the soil, and then those wiggly worms like to have it as well. Come on, everybody, let's be a wiggly worm. Let's do a wiggly worm action. Wiggle, wiggle. We're going to wiggle through the soil, and we're going to let all the air and the water travel through that soil to keep it nice and healthy. Should we have a bit of a recap now and see what we just learned from Josh and Sally-Ann? Let's see. So the worms, they like to live underneath the cow poos. And they are really, really important for healthy soil. That's why farmers really like to look after them. And yes, as they wiggle through that soil, don't they? Do keep wiggling, and they let the air and the water travel through that soil. And also, I didn't know this, but moles like to eat them. That's really amazing, isn't it? So let's see if we can stop wiggling now and go back to Josh and Sally-Ann to find out what the next microhabitat is.
Thanks, Jennie. I hope you've been having fun doing wiggly worms. Now, we're in two completely different habitats now. Over this side is going to be a field of beans in the summer. You can't see them at the moment because they haven't grown. And over this side is another habitat. This is called a field margin. This is the edge of the field, and it's really important for different types of insect in this habitat. Why is it so important, Sally-Ann, to have a field margin like this next to our field of beans?
Well, at the moment, the field margin doesn't look as though it's going on, not what's happening here. It's not bright colours, there's no flowers, but in the summer there'll be lots of different coloured flowers, lots of different shaped flowers as well, and they'll be producing pollen and nectar for our pollinators.
Fantastic. So what's a pollinator, Sally-Ann?
So the pollinators are lots of different types of insects that are actually going to be out here collecting the nectar and the pollen from these plants, but they're going to fly off into our crop here where the beans will be, and they'll actually pollinate the bean flowers so that we have a crop of beans to harvest later on in the summer.
Really important to encourage them. So what kind of insects would be a pollinator? What might be asleep in here right now that we're not going to wake up now because we need them for later on in the summer? But what's sleeping in this area?
Well, when we think of pollinators, we often just think of bees, but actually flies are pollinators, hoverflies are pollinators, beetles are pollinators.
Wow.
There's lots of different insects that are actually pollinating. And right now, there could well be some queen bumblebees that have just gone into the soil and they're overwintering, so keeping away from all that cold weather.
From all the cold
Absolutely.
out here. Yeah. So actually, although we couldn't find any pollinators today, that's actually really a good thing because they're nice and safe until the weather gets warmer. And then they're going to be doing lots of really important jobs for farmers.
They are. And Josh, I've got a bunch of flowers here for you that I've picked from the strip here. And those flowers, they're not colourful.
No.
And they're actually dead. It's just the seed heads, but the seed heads are really important as well because this part of the farm is not disturbed. There's no tractors going in there, nothing going in there, and the seed heads are left. And actually there are going to be insects that shelter in there from the winter inside those seed heads.
Wow, so this is actually, there could be something hiding in here right now. We're not going to disturb it too much, and we actually checked this one first. But can you think about what those insects might look like in the summer? You're going to have to imagine, what are they doing in the field? Why don't you work with Jennie now to do an action for a pollinator that's going to be in our field of beans this summer?
Thanks, Josh. So we've just seen two different microhabitats there. One is the field where Sally Ann's been planting those bean plants, and they're going to grow later on in the summer and get really, really tall. And then the other was the field margin that Sally Ann has left wild to attract lots of different types of insects to and lots of different pollinators to help her grow her bean plants. And leaving the field margins wild is just one of the ways that farmers are caring for the environment and encouraging insects and helping insects too. So we're going to need two different actions, I think, for this one, because Sally Ann said all the pollinators are currently asleep at this time of year. So let's do a nice sleepy action. I'm going to have a little bit of a rest. I'm very tired. I'm going to have a nice rest. I'm a sleepy pollinator at this time of year, not really doing much, just sleeping nicely in my field margin. And then we need another one. We need a nice buzzy one. In the summer, they're going to be buzzing around. They're going to be flying all over the place, aren't they? They're going to be pollinating those crops and helping the farmers. So as everyone, fly around, be a pollinator. I wonder what noise you could do for a pollinator as well. Let's do a little bit of a buzzy noise as well. Buzz. Okay, should we do a recap now of those of the pollinator facts that we've just learned? Keep buzzing. Okay, so bees are one type of pollinator, but there are lots of others as well. So for example, flies and wasps as well, and also beetles. And it's really important, as Sally Ann was saying, it's really important that we encourage them all. And farmers need them for their crops to grow because they help with the pollination. And as we've said, the field margin is a really good leaving the field margin wild is a really good way that farmers encourage lots of different insects. So now we are on to our final microhabitat and our final mini beast. I wonder what it's going to be. Let's go back to the field camera and have a look.
Welcome back to the field margin, everybody. So you've had a look at the pollinators, but while you were doing that, and maybe doing some buzzing bees, I don't know, we have been on a little bit of a search for a different type of mini beast that would live here that does a different job. Because it's not just pollinators that live in field margins, is it, Sally Ann?
Absolutely, Josh, because in the field margin, as I say, it's an area that's not disturbed on the farm. So we have lots of insects that are predatory that live here. Yep. And then they're nice and safe in here, and they can just rest and do what they want to do in here, and then they can go out and travel out into the crop, yep. And they can hunt down and eat other insects that might be pests, other mini beasts.
And that's really helpful, isn't it? Why is it helpful for them to eat pests?
Well, so we might have slugs, slimy slugs, out in the field there, and they might eat the plants as they start to grow. Yeah. So as our bean plants start to grow up through the soil, the slugs come in and they eat all those lovely fresh young leaves. Yeah. And we don't want that happening.
That's not good for you as a farmer.
It's going to eat our crop away.
And you might find that at home as well in your mum's and dad's gardens, that slugs eat all their plants too. So obviously on a farm there's going to be even more slugs.
Absolutely. So areas like this help our slug-eating insects, our mini beasts that are fast and got big jaws and can munch their way through a slimy slug. So, and I've actually caught one.
Fantastic.
This is a ground beetle.
Oh, look at this guy.
So he can't fly, but he can walk and he can run. And he's got great big jaws on him, and he'll munch his way and eat his way through all our slugs.
Fantastic. He's basically got a buffet right next to where he lives.
I'm going to try it, Lexi. Let's see if I can move him. You can see he's much faster, and that's what you need when you're a predator, because you might need to catch something to eat it.
Really quick, isn't he? And he's zooming around there. So of course he's going to get rid of all of those pests, all of those things that might eat the crops. And obviously that's really helpful for you as a farmer, I'm guessing.
Absolutely. And also he's food for other things that might eat him.
Of course.
So we've got lots of songbirds on the farm, and they feed all their chicks in the springtime with insects and mini beasts. So he might well get eaten as well.
Fantastic. And is there anything, Sally, that you can tell us about his body? You know, what look very different to the dung beetle that we saw right at the start of the lesson. Are they different, and why are they different?
Well, his antenna, so what we were using instead of noses, their antenna, his antenna are out all the time. That's because he's not digging through dung, he's not going through the soil as such, so he can have his antenna out. He's got legs that are quite thin, but also very fast moving. He is an insect, so his body's in 3 different parts.
Wow.
So he's got a head, just like we have, the thorax, which is the middle part of his body, and then he's got his abdomen, the back end of his body. So 3 parts to his body.
Fantastic. So you've now seen a completely different type of beetle as well. I'm wondering if you can think of some different actions for that beetle. Our speed demon that lives in the margin here, right next to a restaurant of tasty slugs for him to eat and to help out farmers like Sally Ann, keeping those pests away from eating those new crops. Back to you, Jenny, and we're going to quickly zoom back too, because I bet you've got some questions that you'd like to ask.
Gosh, he was a big one, wasn't he? And what a helpful beetle he was, eating up all of those slugs so that they didn't gobble up all of Sally Ann's bean plants. So for the ground beetle, we need another action. So you might like to do an action that shows how speedy and how long and thin he is. Or you might like to do one that shows how big and strong those giant jaws were for eating up all of those slugs. So we could do, let's do a nice big action now to show him eating up, munching up those slugs. And let's see if we can see, is there a recap that we can have? Let's have a look. Let's look at the predatory ground beetle. So we know that he likes to eat up all of those slimy slugs. And we've just seen how big those jaws were for munching them. And again, yeah, really, really helpful. He's really helpful to farmers by eating up the pests. And they also live in the field margin, don't they? So that's another type of insect that you find living in that microhabitat. So I think I can see Sally Ann, she's just coming back to the classroom, and so she should be, oh, here she is, hello. So she's back from the field and ready to answer some of your fantastic questions.
Warmer in here, Jenny.
Yes, I know, was it a bit breezy out there? Okay, so I'm going to do them quite quickly so that we can do as many as possible, because I know you know so much about so many different insects. So the first one is from Rydal Academy. How many types of mini beasts are there?
Oh, how many different types of mini beasts? Well, there are hundreds and thousands of them. There's over 800,000 mini beasts out there, but that is only of the insects. And basically, we don't know how many there are because we haven't actually found them all and we haven't actually named them all. So there could be millions, absolutely millions of different types of mini beasts out there. Loads.
Gosh. And the same question another question from Rydal Academy is, what's the most common type of mini beast?
Oh, what's the most common type of mini beast? Well, at the moment, and it is at the moment, Jenny, because we don't know where they all are.
No.
But at the moment, it is the beetles that are winning the race for being the most different types of beetles, the most species of beetles. But it might be pipped at the post by the wasps when we found them all.
Wow, there do certainly seem to be a lot of wasps.
There are, and there's lots of different species, and some of them are really tiny wasps.
Oh, really? Gosh. So the Kingsley Primary School are asking, are bugs and mini beasts the same thing?
Right, okay, so mini beasts, when we think about mini beasts, we're thinking about lots of different invertebrates, okay? So these are maybe worms, they might be grasshoppers, they might be beetles, they might be slugs, they might be snails. But if you're thinking about bugs, you're actually thinking of something that's called a true bug. So you might have shield bugs. And when we think about shield bugs, it's something that's a beetle, it's a bit like an insect that has a body in a shield shape. So think of a Roman shield, and it's got a body in a Roman shield shape.
Oh, wow.
But yes, bugs, mini beasts, critters, they get lots of different names.
Yes. And so what do insects eat? This is from Four Swans School.
What do insects eat? Well, mini beasts in general eat lots of different things. So that's what makes them so important for us as well. So they might be eating things like the dung. We saw the dung beetles today.
Yeah.
We saw the ground beetle. He's eating slugs and things like that. You know, they're eating lots of different things. They're also eating all the dead plants and trees. When they fall down, they actually eat away at all the dead wood and recycle it all as well. So lots of different things they're eating.
So they do so many jobs, don't they? These
It's
mini
really
beasts.
important.
Yeah. And so Southborough School are asking, where are beetles born?
Where are beetles born? Well, it depends where the adults are living. So you might have a water beetle living in your pond. So it's going to lay eggs for its babies to hatch from in the pond, or it might be in old rotten wood, and so it'll lay its eggs in the rotten wood. Or it could even be somewhere up in the trees and wanting to be on the leaves or different things. They lay their eggs wherever the adults are living.
So in whatever habitat the adult is living in.
Habitat.
Ah, okay. And so why do centipedes have so many legs? That's from St. Luke's Primary School.
So why do centipedes have so many legs? Well, they're fast moving and they're that lovely sort of very long shape. They're ideal for going through all the leaf litter and all the things on the ground to hunt out their prey. Very fast moving, and if you look at a centipede, it has its body in different segments, and on each segment it has one pair of legs. But if you look at a millipede, which looks a little bit like a centipede, it's not a predator. It's eating all the fungus and broken down wood, rotting wood, all that sort of thing. It's much, much slower, and if you look at its segments on its body, it actually has 2 pairs of legs for each segment. So that's 4 legs on each segment, rather than 2 like the centipede.
So millipedes have more legs than do they?
Millipedes have more legs, but not a million.
Not a million, no.
Not a million.
So the next one is, how many spots do ladybirds have, and does this show their age? That's a good one.
That's a very good question. So ladybirds, how many spots they have and does it show their age? When a ladybird becomes an adult ladybird and it gets the spots on its back, on its exoskeleton, they are actually how many spots it will have forever. It will not change those number of spots. And it might be because that's the type of ladybird it is. So we have a 2-spot ladybird, and they only have 2 spots. We have an 8-spot ladybird. They have 8 spots. But not all ladybirds have spots. There are a lot of ladybirds that don't even have any spots.
I didn't know that, and I actually did believe that they got an extra spot every year. I thought that's how you could tell how old they were.
That's it. They just get the one set.
Well, so I'm learning something today as well. I'm learning lots today, actually. So the next question is, do worms have legs?
Do worms have legs? No, worms don't have legs. But how do they move through their tunnels? They actually have really strong hairs that poke out from their bodies, and they use those to help them move through the tunnels.
Gosh, I didn't even know that worms had hairs. That's crazy. So why don't mini beasts have bones? That's from Queen's Manor Primary School.
Ah, right. So mini beasts, do they have bones? No, they don't. They have an exoskeleton. We could actually do an action for this.
Oh, okay. Let's do another action.
Okay.
A new action.
Right. So I want everybody to put an X up, like a superhero. So that's your X.
Yeah.
Then make an O. That's your O.
O.
And for a skeleton, you're going to be like a bag of bones, Jenny. You ready? So we go with skeleton. We put them together, and we have X, O, skeleton.
Skeleton.
So if you can do that, you'll remember they have an exoskeleton, and it means that their bones, their skeleton, if you like, is on the outside. So they don't have bones like us, and we have our skeleton, and our skeletons are a bit boring. They're all the same. But with the mini beasts, they have an exoskeleton. So the hard parts of their body are on the outside, and that's why they have all these beautiful insects here. It's their exoskeletons that you're seeing.
They really are beautiful. They're really amazing. So another question we've got, how do woodlice get into houses, from Beechwood Primary Academy?
How do woodlice get into your house? Well, there's different ways that they can get into your house. If you're a house that has wood coming into the house, so you've got a log burner or an open fire or something like that, you might be bringing them in by accident with those logs and putting them in your house, and then they get out the logs and they go and find somewhere to live in your house. Or they're just coming in on their own way, because your house might be just perfect for them to live in, and all your doors and other places, they're not perfectly sealed, and these things are tiny, they're mini beasts, so they can just get in little places and come in. So they're just looking for somewhere to live.
And this is a really nice one. I want to know the answer to this as well. What's your favourite mini beast?
What's my favourite mini beast? It has to be the Dung Beetles. Absolutely, without shadow of a doubt, the Dung Beetles. I've got some here, actually.
Oh yes, let's have a look at these. These are very interesting.
These are all Dung Beetles that have come from this country. So our dung beetles are quite small. We were talking about that. They're very small beetles compared to the ones that you get in Africa and places like really hot countries. But they're really, really special. And without them, I wouldn't have lovely grass for my cattle and my sheep. And I wouldn't have really good soil for all the other mini beasts that live in the soil. And they're also helping to get rid of all that poo. So they're perfect and I love them. They're my favourite mini beast.
I can't believe there's so many different type of dung beetles. It's amazing.
Lots of them.
These are just ones that are found in the UK, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
I've got one here. If we look over here, I don't know if we can see that one, but over here we've got a dung beetle that's very big. And it's very big because it's dealing with lots of big poos from elephants and animals like that.
Wow. That is a very impressive dung beetle. So we've got a couple more. So how long can a bug fly? From St. Trudy's school, that one is.
How long can a bug fly? So how far can a bug fly? Well, it depends. So a mini beast, if it's got wings, might be only able to fly a very short distance, or it could actually go right around the world in various different places. We often get moths here in the summer that have come all the way from Africa. So they can actually fly quite some way.
Really far away, yeah, my goodness. And so this one, we've kind of touched on this in the lesson, but why are mini beasts so important?
Why are mini beasts so important? Well, I mean, look at the mini beasts we looked at today. The earthworms are helping our soil.
Yep.
The ground beetle was busy eating other things that we don't want eating all our crops. You had the dung beetle breaking down all the poo and getting rid of it and helping all the bats to eat the dung beetle as well. Because mini beasts, it's not just about the things they do, it's about the things they feed as well. But we have pollinators and we like our honey, the bees make us. So they do things that help us. But most importantly, they're really important for a healthy planet. For a healthy planet, we need all these mini beasts. We don't see them very often, but there's so many of them, and they're all doing really important jobs to keep our planet healthy.
So we've had a couple of people asking, what job does a wasp do? How is that helpful?
Well, lots of people don't like wasps, do they, Jenny?
No, they don't.
No, because they're worried they might sting them. Yeah. But actually, a wasp is a really, really important insect. It's a pollinator. Okay. It actually can pollinate the flowers, and it also is busy taking things like caterpillars back into its nest because it feeds its babies on protein. So the baby wasps are actually eating caterpillars and things like that, which helps your plants grow in your garden. And then the adult wasps are helping to pollinate your flowers.
Wow, so they really are helpful. I didn't know this. So this is a really nice one from Our Lady in St. George's class. What made you decide that looking at mini beasts is what you wanted to do?
Well, look at all these mini beasts behind me. Aren't they amazing? That is exactly why I was really interested in looking at mini beasts. They are incredible and they're all so different. And the more you learn about them, the more you realise you don't actually know and you want to learn more. There's loads you can learn about mini beasts. They do so many different jobs. They're so different and they're just incredible. And what's really amazing is that even in your school, right now, you could go outside and you can find them. So you too can find them.
Yes, absolutely. Well, we're going to put a link on the website to show you how to do that in a really, really simple way as well. We've got so many good questions. We're going to have to wrap it up soon. We can do a couple more. Sally-Ann, did you want to talk to us about these? Because I'm sure some people are going to be very excited
what have I got
to
in
know
here?
About here. Yes.
Well, mini beasts can go through two different types of life cycles. Some of the mini beasts, the babies look a lot like their mums and their dads. So something like a grasshopper, like this one here. So this is an insect. We know it's an insect because it's got 6 legs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 legs on the grasshopper. And its babies will look very much like the adult, but they won't have wings. They'll only have wings when they're at their final stage. When they become adults, they'll get wings and then they can fly as well as hop. Beetles, like these beetles, go through a complete change. The babies are very different to the adults. So if we start here, I've got some baby beetles. Let's have a look. So that is a baby beetle. Look at that.
Oh my goodness, that doesn't look anything like a beetle.
And you can see it's got lots of different sizes. Let's have a look and see if we can find different sizes.
Gosh.
So each time they grow up, they have to actually shed their exoskeleton. So although they're a little bit squidgy, they've still got an exoskeleton and they have to actually split and grow out of their exoskeleton into a new exoskeleton, which is bigger, and they grow from the inside. So they actually get bigger and bigger like that. And then we call them instars. Each time they go through a change and get bigger. And then they've got to look totally different. Well, if you look at the adults, here's one here. It's totally different it's totally different to the baby, to the larvae. Can you see? It's totally different. So they do something very similar to what our butterflies and moths do. They make a pupa, and inside here, because this is a cocoon outside the pupa's actually inside there, and then they make a on the top, and they will emerge out as a beetle.
Oh my goodness, isn't that incredible?
So
it's a little bit like how a caterpillar turns into a butterfly.
Absolutely, it is just like that. They have to go through a complete change to become the adult.
Wow.
And the larvae, if you notice, is bigger than the adult. And that's because of that exoskeleton and all the things that the adult is. It all has to be made out from this one larvae, so it's slightly bigger.
Wow. Gosh, he's really wiggling, isn't he?
He's a wiggly thing, yes he is. And he's done a little smelly poo on me there because he said, "Don't eat me, please don't eat me."
Yeah, can you tell us why he's done that poo? What's that for? What's he trying to stop happening?
The insects don't want to get eaten. They are tiny, there's lots of them, and lots of things want to eat them. And you have to do different things to stop yourself being eaten. So making a horrible smell is one thing, and that doesn't smell very... Jenny, I'm going to ask you to smell my hand.
No, I don't want to smell. Oh my goodness, I definitely don't want to eat that now.
Would you want to eat something that smelled like that?
Oh no.
So making a smell is a really good way to stop predators from eating you. You can also be brightly coloured, and that means that you're not tasty, you're not palatable. You don't want to be eaten because you don't taste very nice. You might be eating a plant that's not very good to eat. It might be a poisonous plant, you're eating it, and all that stuff is going into your body, and you're saying, "Don't eat me. Look, I'm brightly coloured. I'm out here. I'm telling you not to eat me. Don't eat me." However, there's some other insects that might be brightly coloured, pretending to be like those insects, but they might be able to be eaten. So these insects are saying, "Don't eat me, and if you try to eat me, I'm going to make a horrible smell, and you won't want to eat me definitely at the end of that."
That is so clever. So it's a defence, isn't it? It's to stop stop other animals from eating them.
Absolutely.
By being really smelly. What a good idea.
Some of our dung beetles, they pretend to play dead. They literally stay very quietly still. Some of them bring their legs in like this. Some of them put their legs out like that. And they're saying, "Don't eat me because I'm dead. And you don't know what I've died from, so you don't want to eat me."
Wow.
And the ones that actually do this and they put their legs out really far like that, they are going to be really impossible for a bird to swallow.
Oh my goodness. So wow, so that's another way that they're protecting themselves. This is absolutely fascinating. I could absolutely talk to you all day. But I think we are running out of time now, aren't we? So we could do one more. Okay, right, I'm going to look at the very top. There's so many. Thank you so much for sending them in. We've got 400 questions coming up to 400 questions here. It's amazing. Okay, so let's just choose one quickly. Okay, as we've been talking about poo, can wasps poo?
Yes, they can.
Okay, that was a nice easy one. And let's try and do one more. What do ladybirds eat?
So ladybirds will eat their larvae. So different insects will eat different things at different stages sometimes. So the larvae of the ladybird actually eats lots of things like green flies. So they go around, so green flies are a real pest for our farm crops, and the ladybird larvae will actually go around and eat them. And the adults can eat different things as well. So sometimes you get some insects where the larvae, the baby stage, might be eating something totally different to the adult stage.
To the adult stage, wow. And then just one more. Do butterflies have an exoskeleton?
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Like all our other mini beasts here, all our invertebrates, they all have an exoskeleton, and the wings are part of their exoskeleton.
I've just found it. Sorry, I keep finding more that I just want to know the answer to. One more. So from Lavender Primary School, why are slugs slimy?
So slugs are slimy to help them move. If they are nice and slimy, they can easily move across different surfaces, and that's why they're slimy.
Okay, thank you so much, Sally-Ann. I could absolutely hear the answers to these questions all day, but that's unfortunately all that we've got time for now. So thank you so much again for joining us. Thank you for sending in all of those amazing questions. I've had an absolutely wonderful time. I hope you have too. We will be having another live lesson at the same time on Thursday. That one's going to be all about the carbon cycle and about climate change. So don't forget to tune into that. And also tomorrow, if you have a look on our social media channels, we've got some eggs that we've had in an incubator that we're hoping, fingers crossed, they are going to hatch tomorrow. So if you fancy seeing some newborn chicks, don't forget to check out our social media tomorrow. But thank you again. Thank you so much, Sally-Ann. And we'll see you soon. Bye.